Before the sirens blared through the early morning, before the asphalt sealed the sacred ground, before the night was banished by electric light, there was only the wind. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine erasing everything you know about this city, disintegrate the concrete, make the steel evaporate, silence the millions of voices. What remains? Silence. Not empty silence, but the living, pulsating silence of an ancient forest. We are in the year 1400, where today Times Square blinds the eyes with advertising neons. Gigantic chestnut trees block the sun, creating a cathedral of green shadows. Where Wall Street bankers walk hurriedly, wolves and black bears hunted freely. Streams of crystal clear water ran where today the subway sewage flows. This is Mannahatta, the island of many hills, a wild jewel guarded by the Lenape people. For them, this land was not property, it was a living relative. The beaches were covered with oysters the size of dinner plates, filtering the water of a bay, so blue it blended with the sky. The air smells of pine, sea salt, and smoke from distant campfires. The land sleeps, vibrating with a silent potential, oblivious to the storm of steel, ambition, and blood that approaches on the horizon of the sea. Then the horizon changes forever. White sails break the shoreline like ghosts. 1609. Henry Hudson sails through the bay on the half-moon. The clash of worlds is immediate. The smell of cut wood replaces the fragrance of wildflowers. The first blow of the axe echoes, a sound that would never cease for the next 4 centuries. The Dutch arrive, and with them they bring an obsession with profit and order. New Amsterdam is born on the southern tip of the island. It's not yet a city, a muddy trading post. Pigs roam freely through the dirt streets. The architecture is modest, yellow brick houses with steep roofs reminiscent of a distant Europe. Windmills lazily turn on the horizon, grinding grain where today the World Trade Center touches the clouds. But the city is born in fear. Look at the rough wooden palisade hastily erected on the northern edge of the settlement to protect the colonists from Native American and British attacks. A literal wall. The street that runs alongside it will inherit its name and become the financial center of the planet, Wall Street. But here now, it's just a trench filled with mud, fear, and nervous sentinels. Time marches on. The flag changes from Dutch to British, and then to the stripes of the new America. But growth comes at a price. Fire. 1776. As the American Revolution rages, a fire devastates the city. New York is reduced to ashes, with solitary chimneys pointing to the sky like accusing fingers. The city must be reborn, and it chooses to be reborn with a cold and calculating ambition. The year is 1811. A group of men look at a map of the wild island and decide to tame it with a ruler. The commissioner's plan. They draw an unforgiving grid over nature, numbered streets, straight avenues. It doesn't matter if there's a hill, a swamp, or an old farm in the way. Everything will be leveled. Geography bends to human will. The city becomes a chessboard ready to be filled. The population explodes. Hungry immigrants arrive in waves, fleeing famine in Ireland, wars in Europe. The city becomes a melting pot. The harbor is a forest of shipmasts. The noise begins to increase. Horse hooves on the cobblestones, the shouts of vendors, the cries of children in the overcrowded tenements of 5 Points. New York becomes dirty, dangerous, vibrant, and unstoppable. Mid-19th century. The city realizes it is suffocating. It needs air. In the center of the island, a miracle of reverse engineering takes place. Instead of building, they decide to destroy to create a void. Central Park. A perfect rectangle of artificial nature carved into the middle of urban chaos. Swamps are drained, millions of cartloads of earth are moved. It's an illusion of bucolic countryside for the weary soul of the city dweller, surrounded by a wall of buildings that grows every year. And then the bridge appears. The Brooklyn Bridge, a challenge to God. Granite and steel cables weaving a web over the East River. Men die of coffin sickness in the depths of the river to lay its foundations. When it opens, it is the 8th wonder of the world. Brooklyn and Manhattan join hands. The city ceases to be an isolated island and becomes a tentacular organism. The Industrial Revolution blankets the sky with soot. Steam trains race on elevated railways, casting shadows and sparks down the avenues below. The city no longer sleeps. It coughs, smokes, and works. We've reached the 20th century. The island is full. There's nowhere else to go, except up. The safety elevator and steel skeleton make the impossible possible. Gravity is defied. The age of skyscrapers begins. They are not just buildings. They are cathedrals of commerce, temples of ego and power. New York enters its golden age and Art Deco. See the Chrysler Building rising, its stainless steel crown gleaming like an angel's sword. See the Empire State Building, erected in record time during the Great Depression, a lone pin catching the clouds, empty inside, but imposing outside. The city becomes vertical. Lunch atop a skyscraper, workers eating sandwiches on beams suspended over the abyss, fearless, building the future. Electricity banishes the night. Broadway becomes the Great White Way, a river of artificial diamonds cutting through the darkness. Jazz echoes from the basements of Harlem. Money flows invisibly, faster than blood. New York is now the center of the world, but history isn't a straight line to the top. There are falls. The 1970s. The city that touched the sky begins to rot at its base. Bankruptcy knocks at the door. Garbage accumulates on the sidewalks during endless strikes. The Bronx burns. The subway, once a symbol of progress, becomes a ghost train covered in graffiti, dangerous and dark. The visuals change drastically. The colors become grainy, dirty. It's the era of Taxi Driver. Times Square isn't a Disney theme park. It's a den of vice and danger. The city seems tired, violent, on the verge of collapse. But New York is a concrete phoenix. It refuses to die. The 1990s brought a clean sweep, and the money returned. The Twin Towers, which had dominated the skyline for 30 years like two titanic monoliths, became the symbol of this economic power. Until that day in September 2001. In a tragic blink of history, the horizon is mutilated. Smoke blankets the island once more, not from factories, but from pain. The world stops. Silence returns for a brief moment, heavy and suffocating. But watch as the dust settles and the cranes return. One world rises. The scar becomes a memorial. Resilience is in the DNA of this land. We have arrived at today, a symphony of glass and light. The city has transformed once again. Where docks and factories once stood, now there's the High Line, an elevated park where nature walks along the old tracks. The meatpacking district, where animal blood once flowed in the streets, now sells handbags that cost more than a car. Look at Central Park again. It's being surrounded by a new generation of giants. The pencil towers of Billionaires Row, extremely thin needles of engineering swaying in the wind, empty apartments bought by oligarchs who never set foot there. The city is a playground for the global elite, while underground, the old infrastructure groans under the weight of millions of workers. It's a place of brutal contrasts. The beggar and the billionaire share the same sidewalk, illuminated by the cold light of smartphones. And now, where do we go? Time turns the corner towards tomorrow. Fast forward 100, 200 years. The climate has changed. The ocean, which has always been the giver of life to New York, is now its greatest threat. Watch the city transform into an amphibious fortress. Gigantic dikes and floodgates protect the island, turning the bay into a controlled lagoon. The streets of lower Manhattan, flooded by the tides, become canals, a futuristic Venice where electric boats glide silently between the steel canyons. The gray concrete has been reclaimed by greenery. Vertical gardens cover the facades of skyscrapers, filtering the air and transforming the concrete jungle into a biomechanical forest. Vertical farms feed the local population. Drones buzz like swarms of metallic fireflies between towers connected by skylights. A layered city where the ground is just a memory. Energy pulses from the very skin of the buildings, transparent solar panels absorbing every photon. Night in the year 2200 is not illuminated by incandescent lamps, but by bioluminescence and holograms that dance in the humid air. It's a Solarpunk New York, a fusion of high technology and primitive survival. 400 years. A geological blink of an eye. From a silent chestnut forest to a stellar metropolis that touches the cosmos. What have we learned by observing this accelerated metamorphosis? That the city is not made of bricks, steel, or glass. The city is an organism. It sheds its skin, it burns, it sinks, it grows, it bleeds, and it heals. People come and go. Generations are like the leaves that fall in Central Park in autumn, ephemeral. Buildings, however tall they may be, will eventually turn to dust. But energy, the energy of Manhattan, never dies. It only transforms. And if you stay very quiet, on top of the tallest building above the noise of the drones and the wind, maybe you can still hear it. The whisper of that ancient wind, reminding us that, in the end, we are only temporary guests on the island of hills. This was New York, past, present, and future.